There's a paved Inca road less than an hour from Machu Picchu's front gate, a kilometer long, zigzagging straight up the mountainside. Found in 2023. For 3 years, nothing more was said about it, until Peru's Ministry of Culture confirmed it this past August. 2.5 kilometers of road cut into the mountain in a sector called Mandor. This isn't the Inca Trail from the postcards. It has no name, no file, no paper trail, because until a few weeks ago, it didn't officially exist. It's been studied stone by stone since 1911, and nobody can say yet how old this road actually is. If it's Inca, the fully mapped story you've been told for a century has a hole in it big enough to walk through. If it's not Inca, someone built a serious road inside a UNESCO sanctuary, and it still ended up missing from every map anyway. Either answer breaks something. I'm not telling you this proves a lost civilization. The Inca built roads exactly like this, all the time. That part isn't in question. What's actually strange is that the single most examined ruin on the planet still managed to miss one, sitting right next to it, wide enough to walk two abreast, under a canopy nobody had cleared in 500 years. Tonight, why this road isn't the only thing that's quietly surfaced around Machu Picchu in the last few years, and why the teams who found these things still haven't agreed on how any of it connects. Because the last one on the list is still wide open, right now. Peru has a gold standard answer for Inca roads. The Qhapaq Ñan. Over 30,000 kilometers of it. Every segment supposedly walked, measured, and entered into the record. That's the claim the region rests on. The road network is a solved problem. It holds up everywhere except here. The Mandor Road isn't on that map. Not as a branch, not as a spur, not as a footnote. 1.25 kilometers of stone road inside the boundary of the most visited Inca site on Earth, and the system built to catalog exactly this kind of thing has nothing on it. So the "we've mapped it all" story has a hole in it. A very specific, very recent, still unexplained hole. And it isn't even the first hint. Before the LiDAR flights, satellite imagery of this exact area had already picked up traces of what looked like old foundations. Nobody followed it up on the ground. It sat there, unexamined, until a laser flight over the same patch of forest confirmed there was an entire road system attached to it. Here's what makes this stranger than just dense jungle hard to find. Mandor sits inside the Machu Picchu Historical Sanctuary, a protected zone that's been patrolled, surveyed, and remapped for park management for decades. Trail maps exist. Conservation zoning maps exist. Access control maps, the ones rangers actually carry, exist. Every single one of them shows blank space where this road actually is. Picture what that blank space really was. Stone steps under a foot of leaf litter, damp, cold, sitting through every single one of those map revisions, while rangers walked within a few hundred meters without ever cutting toward it. For years, the working map had nothing where 2.5 kilometers of road were sitting under that canopy. Then, in one flight, a laser rewrote it. Not a slow correction. A blank space filled in overnight, because a drone did in a few hours what foot patrols hadn't managed in decades. Mandor sits at kilometer 114 of the Cusco-Aguascalientes railway line, an hour's walk from the town every single Machu Picchu visitor passes through. Nobody looking out a train window would have known what was under that green. This isn't even the first time this has happened at this exact site. In 2021, a University of Warsaw team ran the same kind of scan over Chachabamba, a ceremonial complex less than 5 miles from the citadel, part of the official record since Hiram Bingham's original expedition back in 1911. They found 12 structures within about 60 feet of the main ceremonial core. 60 feet. Close enough to throw a stone and hit one. The researcher who led that scan, Dominika Seczkowska, said it herself afterward. They were right there and nobody knew. 110 years of fieldwork at one of the most photographed, published, walked over sites in the discipline. And 12 structures sat close enough to touch, completely unlisted the entire time. That's not a coincidence anymore. That's a pattern. And it's exactly the same pattern the Mandor Road just repeated. 5 years later, 90 minutes down the valley, at a scale 10 times larger. So line up what's actually surfaced in the last 5 years. Chachabamba, 5 miles from Machu Picchu, found in 2021. The Mandor Road, east of the Citadel, found in 2023, only confirmed in 2026. And Sacsayhuamán, the fortress complex above Cusco itself, where an Italian research team from CNRISPC, archaeologists Nicodemo Abate and Gabriele Ciccone, flew drone-mounted LiDAR and photogrammetry over the escarpments in 2026 and found an entire network of roads, terrace systems, and structures the surrounding forest had been hiding. Their conclusion, in their own words, is that it forces a reconsideration of the formative phases of the Inca capital itself. 3 teams, 3 different years, 3 findings that each individually break something the mainstream timeline assumed was settled. A ceremonial site's true footprint, a citadel's actual access network, and now the early growth of the empire's own capital city. The Sacsayhuamán team's own published conclusion questions when Cusco's urban core actually began taking shape. That's not a footnote to an old timeline. That's a request to redraw it. Nobody has published a single model connecting them. Each discovery is sitting in its own paper, its own press release, its own research silo. Most of this isn't public yet in any real sense. Not in the guidebooks, not from the guides walking that trail every day. Here's exactly where this stands right now. Not where a documentary would like it to stand. The Mandor Road's age hasn't been established. The researchers were explicit about that in their own announcement. The zigzag pattern looks Inca. The switchback style matches confirmed Inca construction elsewhere in the sanctuary. But looks like is not a date, and nobody has confirmed what sits on either end of that road. The terraces the same scan also picked up are still called possible in the official report. That word is doing real work. What has happened is this. Cusco's Directorate of Culture has just ordered targeted field surveys to finally establish the age, the construction method, and the function. Officials have also said they'll assess whether the road could eventually be documented and opened to visitors, which means the Machu Picchu tourists walk through in a few years could include ground no one has ever set foot on. None of that work has started yet. As of this month, an entire stretch of road that's been sitting under that canopy for who knows how many centuries is, for the first time in recorded history, formally scheduled to be looked at. Somewhere under that canopy right now, there's a road that was there before you were born, before your parents were born, before Bingham ever climbed that mountain in 1911. It's been there through every tour bus, every ticket scanned, every photo taken from the classic overlook a few hundred meters away. Completely indifferent to all of it, waiting under the leaves for the first set of boots that will ever actually reach its end. Nobody knows yet what's there.